I'm proud and excited to announce that the new book, Transform Your Body, Transform Your Life, is now available. I've put the links to grab your copy from Amazon worldwide in the show notes, and I can't wait to see what you think. As a thank you for listening to the podcast, email podcast@rntfitness.com with your receipt, and we'll send you the free ebook version to start reading immediately. If you like a sneak peek of what's inside, you can download the first chapter at rntfitness.com/book. Also, you've heard me talking about the power of journaling for a long time, so I'm happy to announce we've now got customized RNT journals in store. There's a mix of prompts and freestyle writing, which you can take a glimpse of on rntfitness.com/journal. Just a quick one before we get into this episode. If you're in the UK and you use supplements, I'd highly recommend checking out Reflex Nutrition, where they're giving up to 40% on all their range if you use the code PTRNT at checkout. I've been using Reflex for nearly a decade, with their microwave being one of my favorite whey proteins. It's grass-fed, hormone-free, and digests so well compared to most on the market. Check out their full supplement range, including all your transformation basics and plant-based alternatives on reflexnutrition.com, and use the code PTRNT at checkout for up to 40% off. On this week's episode of RNT Fitness Radio, I'm joined by the Hitman and Mr. Kmak in a three-way chat all about how to maximize your investment phase for not only your physique, but for high performance in all aspects of life. Inspired by the recent Last Dance documentary, we talk sports, and specifically what we can learn from some of the best individuals and teams about the concept of maximizing the 1% and seeking the extra edge. We discuss growth and fixed mindsets and how important environment plays a part in this. So if you're wondering how an investment phase can facilitate your version 2 upgrade beyond simply your physique, you won't want to miss this one. Today I'm rocking this very bright pink RNT hat, and don't worry guys, this isn't going on the shop. It was actually a gift from my uncle, who decided to give his nephew and his son a cap for their various brands. This is what his son got, and I got the. Sorry, do
you want to shout them out?
Yeah, shout out vaesthetics.com. So this cap is, it's plain black. It's got VA, but on a mirror it looks like AV. And then I got a bright pink RNT cap. So I asked him, I was like to him, why have I got a bright pink? And he goes, that's just what the sample said. I was like, well, clearly, all the other ones are very strategic, and then my one is like bright pink. But anyway, at least it stands out. I was thinking to myself, like, if I'm walking down the street with this bright pink hat on, people are going to take notice, and they'll hopefully see what's on it.
Probably walk in the opposite direction. They were just thinking, we get shout outs on this podcast now. We need to be sponsored Reflex next.
Yeah, AV, get the sponsorship for us. We need that Friday sponsorship.
Sponsorship for what?
For this podcast, we need to promote. Well, as Kunal said in 2 podcasts ago, is that he's never tried Reflex before in his life.
But, yeah. AV didn't clearly listen to that one because he would have been like, "Mate, what's going on?"
yeah. Now he's got to talk us through his jersey choice, because obviously that's a big thing with their Friday lives now.
Well, I was told I got to wear a jersey today. By the way, where's your jersey, Nathan? I haven't seen them.
Technical apparel. These are the training tops for LA Galaxy.
Okay, fair enough.
They're just normally quite loose on people, but just because I'm so massive, it's quite tight.
Well, I'm wearing so with a bright pink cap, I've got the bright red United t-shirt. So as you guys said, I'm looking like the guys who used to sit behind Fergie.
The 3C, the 3C class, right? You do look sleek though today, like very sleek.
My beard's looking a mess as well, so I think got a different vibe going on compared to the normal.
Yeah, changing from Akash Vagila to Akash Singh, yeah.
For the people that watch it on the podcast, we'll probably put this up on a YouTube video or something, so they can watch what we're talking, know what we're talking about here. We'll apply a picture. But yeah, today we're going to talk about is a few different things. Firstly, we've never had a podcast with us three, so I thought it would be great timing to get one in. And I thought we'd talk about a few things. Firstly is the Last Dance documentary. So we've been going back and forth about the Last Dance documentary quite a bit, and to me, it really opened up the open up the kind of box for high performance to the absolute max. If you think about what the last documentary covered, it's like it shows what needs to be done to kind of break through and get to that next level. So I want to talk about high performance with the Last Dance documentary, and then talk about what it takes to get the extra 1% in what you're doing, especially in an investment phase. And then after, I thought we'd cover what it takes to be a high performance but a killer coach. And what I mean by that is like it's very easy to become a coach who's great at rapport, who's great at being nice, and who's great at being personable and all that great stuff, and has a nice relationship with the coach. But there's a difference with one who can do all of that plus get amazing results and knock them out of the park all the time. And that's a different skill in itself, and something we don't really see that often. And I thought, given that we're doing the interview process now, we're doing a lot of hiring, we're seeing what's coming through, I thought it'd be great to give people a heads up on what it takes to be a killer coach. Because our track record ultimately is only possible with being killer coaches. So yeah, take it away. Let's start with The Last Dance. You've all watched it, right? Both of you obviously watched it. What were your thoughts on it? Like, were you watching it? Because I was watching it and relaying a lot of things that were coming up to what we were doing and what we do on a day-to-day basis. So what sort of takeaways did you have?
Go on, Kmak.
So obviously I watch a lot of basketball, and I have done for a long time, and I've heard a lot about good stories about Michael and what he was like, as a teammate. I heard all about the Steve Kerr story way back in the day. But he never completely knew what he was like behind the scenes. There was always these legends about him saying, this is what he's like, and this is like his practices were crazy. But watching this documentary, you could see his intensity and the intensity that he had, literally each practice, but also for anything he'd done, right? So in the plane, he's playing poker, and he still has that intensity. And there's actually legendary stories about him playing poker right now. And, he's absolutely battering everyone about it. He's going to be hounding you about it. And in that sense, I realized like he had this singular focus for winning, which was very rare in this society in this current moment. Like if you think about it, who's like Michael right now in sports? There's probably only 2 people that I know. But if you think even in general life, who's like him right now? It's very, very rare. So for me, it was like all the stories I heard, I got to see it in this 10-part documentary. And I was like, holy crap, actually, this is real. Like him, I could see him why he punched Steve Kerr. I could see why he told Horace Grant, you can't eat because you lost or whatever. But also learning about what high performance is and what it takes. And, if you look at where he is now in terms of, alcoholism and all the dangers of that, like how much he had to give essentially, and where he is right now in his life as well. It's like those lessons you learn from it. So I've taken a lot from it, but just singular focus is something that I really like paid attention to from him. He just focused on basketball. Even if you think about the politics side of things that they were speaking about in his documentary, he was like, I'm just a basketball player at the end of this. I don't know what to say or I don't know what to do. He still donated money, but he didn't want to get involved in it because he just only thing he cared about was basketball. So I thought that was like, in this society when, we have social media, we have loads of distractions, I think that's a very, very powerful thing where it's like, let me just have the singular focus towards one goal, which is winning a championship. And then obviously he won multiple ones and never lost in the finals.
Yeah. And that whole element of like never losing in those finals, but also like remotivating you again in that environment is such a difficult task. And when I look at it, I look at the comparisons between him and the other players that I know from my generation or the generation that we watch the basketball in now. There is no one like him. Only LeBron and Kobe are probably similar, but not, you don't until their documentaries come out. You never know. But the roles of each of the people in the team and how they played a role in his success, but also everyone else's success. It was really to see, how Pippen, how Rodman, the beginning of the big 3, as we now call it in basketball, was the first ever big 3, and how they played together, interchanged, new systems that they used with the role players, and how each role player was very integral. As much as Jordan might slate him and push him, they were as much integral into the story as he was. But he also was the cultivist and the cultivator within the team that made everyone go to another level. What did they say? Like, he would challenge you and make you a better person every single day. And if you weren't on the ride, you can get the fuck off. Whatever they said. And that was very interesting. And the last thing that I liked was that he used his own mentality for his greater good. You know, what did he say after the 6th championship? He's like, I had to motivate myself completely and tell myself different things to make sure that I could get the 7th, because all the things that he'd used for the first 6
it's 5 to the 6th to me.
5 to 6, sorry.
Yeah.
Were all the same, you know. But then he remotivated himself in a way where he'd tell himself different things, make up stories about different people, and it's a crazy way to change your mentality. And he knew that he could win over everything by changing his mentality.
Yeah, I think the singular focus is massive. I think the willingness to do whatever it takes and not settle for anything less than excellence is a massive part. And I think we take a lot of that into what we do on a day-to-day basis and how we sort of operate. And it's relentless. Like, you know, being in his environment is relentless. And I can imagine that a lot of people wanted to be or tried to be, but they couldn't really hack it, if that makes sense. They might wanted to be around Michael, but the reality is Michael was driving at such a hard pace that it was like sink or swim for a lot of them. And then people like Pippen and Rodman and Steve Kerr. I mean, Steve Kerr showed his worth in the end, didn't he? And Steve Kerr's the one who hit the 3-pointer, the famous 3-pointer, didn't he?
John.
Yeah, I mean, they showed their worth, but they also showed that, you know, Michael alone wasn't enough, and that he needed that whole. He needed the all the pieces in the puzzle in order to be able to win.
Yeah. I mean, you're right there, but one thing I was going to say as well is one thing I learned from the documentary was Jordan always had the best team. No matter what, like, he's always had the best team. When he didn't have the best team, he didn't win. So if you look at the 80s, he didn't have the greatest of teams. In the 90s, I was looking at it, I was like, he didn't really face anyone in terms of a big 3. So that's why if there's one slight, if I was going to look at it, it's like he only faced Karl Malone and, you know, John Stockton, but he didn't have any other big 3s apart from that in the Utah Jazz. Charles Barkley in the Phoenix Suns, not really. His toughest opponent was LA Lakers in his first championship. And that's when he won. That was great, but he faced Magic when Magic was about to retire and stuff like that. So that's the only slight, I would say, if you compare him to, like, if you did a LeBron versus Jordan comparison right now, that's the only comparison I'd say. He's like, Jordan always had the best team. Even if you look at his bench, he had Kukoc coming off the bench. Still, he could drop 30 any night. And he was a killer. If you think about it, he was a killer, Kukoc. So if he always had really, really good teams. And that's probably credit to Jerry Krause, because he built these teams effectively. And in America, you know, you have a salary cap. It's not like football where you can just go out there and buy players. It's very, very different. You've got to be very strategic in a sense the way you build teams. It's never like, all right, I'm going to get Kukoc today. You have to actually draft them and you have to be very strategic and go, I need to pay this guy this amount of money. That's why, you know, the first episode, Pippen was like, I'm not paid enough. But the owner goes, I wouldn't even take this money if I was you, because he knows you're getting underpaid, but I need you to be in a salary cap. So the way you build a team as well was very, very, like, important. So that's why, like, Jerry Krause could be a villain in the doc, but he's built a dynasty, but he also killed it because of his ego at the same time. Because he was like, I could probably create this again, but he didn't realize obviously there was only one Michael. So that was quite interesting as well. Something I picked up on when I was watching this.
The team is important, right? Team.
They also did well. You know, the year when Michael did baseball, they did pretty well then, didn't they? They didn't win, but they came pretty close to, and their win record wasn't far off what they were with Michael.
No, that just showed how
that's true. That was good.
Yeah, it just shows you how good Kukoc, all the other players like that were decent, and Pippen did hold that team that year.
Yeah, the only team he lost to, if you think about it, was the Orlando Magic when he came back, right? Yeah. And that was Shaq, Penny, Horace Grant, all of these guys. That was a big essential 3 he lost to. So I always thought if he faced another big 3 in the finals, would he still have won? Most likely, yeah, but it's something that is one of those things that you never know in that situation. But yeah, it was a great documentary, probably one of the best sports documentaries out there, I'd say, because I watched loads, but I'd say it's probably top 3 for me.
Yeah, I was hooked on it. Like, I thought it's very rare to get inside the mind of someone who thinks like that, who just, like, analyzes everything, who has that willingness to just push beyond the norm and probably ride that line between performance and the red line so well. Like we talk about trying to stretch the capacities. That guy was working at his capacity and more without tipping on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was definitely redlining like after midnight, like let's say 93. After 93, he was easily redlining every year, in my opinion. And in basketball as well, you're playing 82 games a year. So he had this thing where it's like, I never want to take a game off. Like nowadays, there's this whole thing called load management where players can take days off, etc. He never used to take days off. So he used to be constantly on it every single night, every game as well, averaging 20, 27 points a game, 30 points a game every night. That's hard. And then playoffs start, and that's when it really matters. And then he turns up another notch, which is crazy when you think about it, right? Not many people can do that at this moment.
Yeah, how many people are turning up every day and dropping 40? Yeah, and me and Kmak speak about that a bit when we play in FIFA. It's like, what is your sport, or what are your playoffs? And like we treat like our days as very similar to that, or try to at least as much as we can. Where we're thinking about us playing 82 games every single day. And Monday to Friday, you're treating it like it's a game. It's your sport. And I think we were in America as well, and we were speaking like we were at a game. We were at the Cleveland Browns game, and I said to Kmak, I was sitting there thinking, I wish I had a sport to keep me so motivated, like for everything that I do, like something that you could be completely invested in, where you've got something to really, really focus on. I came away from the game and like, why couldn't you have that, but just not in a professional sport? And after that trip, I was like, why is what you not do on a day? What about if what you did on a day-to-day basis was that sport, and you practice for that sport every day? And if you love what you do, you're just doing the exact same as that elite basketball player or elite football player, but instead of playing in front of 70,000 fans, you're in front of your 3 screens and you've got a bottle of water next to you.
Yeah, your Gmail.
Yeah, I just got my Gmail and Gatorade next to me.
Well, no, if you think about that, that's exactly it. Like if you want to be, let's say your choice of professional sport is, for us, it's being coaches, right? Yeah. Or how do we practice for that? How do we prepare for that? And that's where it comes to like, right, dialing in on your training, your nutrition, your steps, whatever your rules are. It's like that's like the training for the game and the training for the sport and for match day. Because every day for me, like when I wake up, it feels like Groundhog Day every day. I'm like, I wake up, I've got to try and somehow get through all this stuff I want to do. But there's no way I'll be able to do all the stuff I want to do if I'm not ready for it. If I'm not training, if I'm not eating well, I'll be crashed out by midday. Like there's only one way to be able to be going balls to the walls from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day or whatever it may be. There's only one way to do it, and you have to be. It starts with turning up in practice and fueling the body with the right things that it needs. Yeah.
And the sport that you're playing for, let's just call it that, can be anything. And we've got people like in their investment phases and in their phases later on, being the best mum and dad that they could be ever. Yeah. Or the best parents they can be, and then that defines their rules, and that defines their state of play for the day, and that defines what their practices are going to be like. If you're going to use the sports analogy all the way through this, but our game is coaching, and our game is maybe some muscle building, maybe looking better, but that's a byproduct of now where this high performance level has come from and what we're trying to win on a day-to-day basis. But it all does come back to those filters down into practice, filters down into nutrition, filters down into how you're recovering and and what that means to you on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, our sport is trying to win this transformation game. It's like, how do we make RNT the best, the winners? How do we make them the best possible team, best possible system, everything? Okay, the only way to do that is if we're turning up to practice on a daily basis. We're doing all the rules that allow us to perform at that level that's needed to be at the top.
And dropping buckets, right, at the end of it.
Jimmy buckets!
I remember telling AV this. I was like, oh man, it's been a good year. I was like, towards the end of last year, I was like, I think I've got like about 30 goals. And I was like, transformations, right? But I was like, I always see it as a sport. Everything that we do is like, all right, whether it's goals or dropping buckets, if it's dropping a transformation, yeah, that's a bucket for yourself. At the end of the day, you're like, yeah, this is it. And you're trying to average the same amount each year to be consistent. That's high performance to me now. And after that, it's like, you don't want to just be that one season wonder. You want to do this now. Can you do this for the next 10 years?
Yeah, you don't want to be Leicester City, right? You don't want to be Leicester City.
Exactly, yeah. But then Leicester's another example. It's like it was a 5,000 to 1, like super. Yeah. If you bet 5,000 times, it's not going to happen. That's how crazy it was.
Well, think about what you said to me on that walk. We were talking. Remember, we were talking about everyone's got a position to play, and you're like, you consider yourself as a striker, getting the transformations. But then, like at the same time, you need the sweepers at the back in order to build the feeder systems. You need the central midfielders and the playmakers to pass you the ball in the first place. Like it all needs to kind of line up together. And one thing I learned last year, and I talked about in that 3 years business article, is I said like business is a team sport. It's not like a solo one-man band thing where a lot of these people, they like to glorify the fact that it's a one-man band, but it's not. It's a team sport, and we're all like collectively trying to push towards a shared mission and a shared vision. And then we all have a common interest to win the championship or whatever it may be. Watching that documentary just got me like fired up. When I was watching, I was like, oh man, we're like the Chicago Bulls. we like the Bulls. Just like the mindset that the way all the different parts of the machine just work together is really cool.
And I think I was telling Nathan this though. I was like, last year, I'm not sure if you remember this, Nate, but we were in the US and I was like, you know who we're like? I said, we're like the New England Patriots. I think we're around the Patriots Stadium. And I was like, we're like the Patriots, right? I was like, we've got this. Because Brady, another guy is elite. And he's been a quarterback for the last 20 years. And in the NFL, it's super hard to be a quarterback for 20 years. Purely because it's a physical sport. You can be paralyzed within the next play, for example. So I was always like, I think we're the New England Patriots. Just the way we were quite consistent with everything that we were doing in that moment. And even right now. But yeah, I'm always thinking, for me, it's like sports is the closest thing to, I always pick out analogies from there. So for me, I'm always like, okay, this is relatable to sport in this moment. But yeah, I'm not sure if you remember that, Nate.
No, I don't, because simply it was so cold in New England. And I didn't even want to be at that game. We watched the second half at the bar.
In the stadium. So imagine being
traveled thousands of miles to go and watch that game. That was the one that we paid the most amount of money for the tickets, and we couldn't stand outside because literally everything was frozen.
Minus 15.
Yeah. Minus 15 was ridiculous.
I mean,
no. Well, wasn't it funny that team mentality that in the biggest moments of the Chicago Bulls is that one of the other players, not the focal ones, were the ones that executed the last play, and that Paxton, Kerr, Kluko, they all in that moment, regardless of whoever took the limelight, whoever was the person that was the sole focus, is that they all had a role to play, and they probably never thought. And this is probably in most teams, they never thought that they will have the final punch or the last dance. And actually they do. They have a massive important factor in the outcome of the team.
Yeah, everyone has a part to play. And I think that's the beautiful part of all of this. What do you think about let's say for that Last Dance documentary, I don't know if they'd covered many of the players who didn't make it, but like what would if it's a sink or swim environment, what would cause people to sink versus swim? What do you think differentiates that? Like, do you think it's a mindset? Do you think it's something you're born with? Do you think it's something you can train? What do you think, or do you think it's something you have to unravel? Like, if you're not aware of it inside of you because of whatever pressures or suppressions you've had in the past, like, what do you think determines that sort of killer mindset?
Depends on what you.
Question you ask yourself is like, how badly do you want to win?
Right? Why do you play the game?
Yeah, why do you want to win? Or why do you play the game first? And then why do you want to win? Probably the two biggest questions you ask yourself. Because there is probably players who played with him and either got traded or they left or just didn't play, right?
They might say that they want to win or they have good reasons for winning, but they still can't swim in that when the pressures and stakes are so high. They still can't swim. Like, what do you think differentiates that? Like the ability to take feedback, the ability to be scrutinized, the ability to take constructive criticism, all these things, which for some people it can cause a defection, or it can be it can cause that sink mentality. Or for others, it's like, I want more. I want to thrive off that. Or you hear that and you're like, you get fired up. you know, like if you get fired up from feedback or criticism or like, you know, jabs or whatever it may be, then you're probably someone who can survive in that environment. But if you're someone who defects and starts using different language that infers that you don't agree with it, all that sort of stuff, then you probably won't last long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think it does always come down to that core being. It's like if you're on that mission together and the mission aligns together, like if you know what the reason of that feedback, those jabs are, like Michael every single day coming at you, you know that he's doing it, he's an asshole, but you know that he's going to make you better. And if you're on board with that mission to the core of you, it's just how aggressive that person is towards that feedback will you find out sooner or later. Like if you're on that team and you walk in day one with Michael, you know if that core value is there. Whereas if you're in a team where feedback happens once every 6 months, you may get aligned every 6 months, but you can get coerced with the day, the whole idea of it, everything. But in reality, when you get challenged, what are you going to do? If you're in that moment and someone says to you, this is not good enough, but this is what we need to do to improve, are you going to walk away or are you going to stand up? That defines your mission and what your actual priorities are at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have they got tested previously? That's the question as well, right?
Was that, sorry?
Have they got tested previously?
Yeah.
You know, because if you never had that and then suddenly you come to this, you may just freeze.
Yeah.
So it's knowing that, okay, what environment you're going into and then how badly do you want to win? You got to ask that question yourself all the time and be like, actually, I do want to win, but this is what it takes to win. Also, it's never just like, you know, this is it. And I'm going to win, but there's a cost to winning at the same time as well. And it could be, you know, you're going to get feedback. It's going to be intense, but you know, you get defined as a person from that after a while.
Yeah, I find it. People find it very difficult to change. I used to think like people can change the way they receive feedback, but I think I don't know if the right word is you're born with it, but once you get set in your ways of how you respond to feedback or how you respond to criticism, it's difficult to change that. I do think that people can go from like a fixed to a growth mindset. I do think that, but I think if you're fundamentally someone who's got a fixed mindset, that's going to be difficult to change. But if you're someone who's only had a fixed mindset because you've never had the opportunity to be in a growth mindset environment, which I've definitely seen that to be the case. Like people who I've known who when I first met them, very much fixed, but they just need a few peeling back of their layers and the right environment to then thrive in. And then you suddenly realize, holy shit, like this person's like, how are they doing all of this before for so long? When really they had all this talent and all this growth-oriented behavior that just needed to be untapped. So the answer there is probably like, yes, you are the fixed for growth, but if you're fixed, you might not be, you're not destined to be fixed. You just might not be in the right environment for it.
Yeah. And then it's just practice after that. It's like,
it's an identity thing as well. Like you're stuck in the old identity of being fixed.
Yeah.
It's like the investment phase. It's like when you, lose like 25 kilos, you're stuck in that old identity of I used to be 95 kilos, now I'm 70 kilos, but I don't know how to act. And it's like, oh, now I'm in a growth mindset environment. I do have a growth mindset, but I'm so used to being fixed that I don't know how to act or respond to it. And I take it badly when reality is I shouldn't, and I should embrace what this new mindset is.
Yeah. Do you think that that person who has that fixed mindset, with all the things, the rest of the day that they may have, by changing those things, do you think that you get a better version of that person coming through?
Yeah, 100%. Like in my experience, like those people they can do stuff that they didn't even think was possible. They just need that coaxing, coaching, and unraveling in order to do so. It's
like a new set of rules, a new set of acting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's a new set of rules of what do you standard operating procedure.
SOP.
It's a new SOP. It's like, first of all, you get challenged and you don't really know this new SOP. Then you read it a few times and you get challenged again, and it's quicker to align. And then next time you get challenged, it's even quicker to align again. And then you may even grow a bit more. And then you get challenged again, and that becomes natural.
I think the environment people are not only born with or they surround themselves with, it makes such a critical difference here. Who you surround yourself with is probably the biggest one, and you can really shape your mindset, whether it's fixed or growth. Like if you're always around people who are fixed and like always thinking negatively, or they put you down, they suppress you, you're just naturally going to take that identity, even if it's not who you really are.
Yeah.
So they always say, it's a cliche saying, like, you are who you're surrounding yourself with, right? It's a cliche saying, but it's so true, because if you're around people who are always like high performance and growth oriented, and you are that internally, like to the core, and if you're honest with yourself and you think, am I really that? And you know yourself, you are, then you'll thrive in that environment. Yeah. If you're honest with yourself and you're like, yeah, I am, I'm a high performer, I'm a growth oriented person, but in reality is you're not. The reality is you can't take feedback. The reality is you don't want to improve. Then you'll defect for a long time, and then all of a sudden you'll sink.
You can't fake it.
No, you can't fake it. Like, you can't fake yourself, right?
No. Yeah. They what am I going to say now? But do you think that if you're in an environment long enough, do you think that, because if we know that 90% of all habits are environmental or taught, do you think you can be in an environment long enough and then change over time? So if you stick someone, like, let's say you put someone who's fixed around 9 other people that are motivated and in a different ball game, does that person become part of that team eventually?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think you can fake it till you make it? What are your thoughts on that?
I always think I am.
I think there's certain things you can definitely fake it till you make it. You can fake a certain way of being, and then it becomes normal.
I think you can fake it until you get there, and then when you get there, you realize whether that is what you wanted in the first place. Yeah. You were just craving to be fit in with that environment. And then you get there and you don't actually progress past that point. Maybe that's, I don't know.
It'd be an interesting experiment to run, wouldn't it? Like putting someone in there and then saying, like, all right, can you survive in this environment?
Yeah.
Or will you just sink? Will you just sink before you get the chance to survive? That would be the other thing. Like, if you leave someone in that, like, these people are going 100 miles an hour, can you keep up? It's gonna be difficult. Like, you might be able to show a brave face when you're with them, but behind the scenes, you're just breaking apart.
Is that gap too big?
You see that in teams, isn't it? Like, you see that in teams quite a lot. That when an outcast comes into a culture, they end up kind of not being there, and they end up just leaving, like, a lot of times. Or they end up, like, if you look at sports, they end up getting traded or getting sold because they just couldn't fit that culture effectively. Like, I've seen that with San Antonio Spurs, the Patriots. Everyone's there, and they're like, I'm in this culture, and they have I'm hearing ex-players, they say they have this way, and I just couldn't be there. Now, it's that culture essentially that defines it, but it's, can you fit within that culture? I personally think, versus, are you going to come in, and whether you're or whether you're fixed mindset, growth mindset, it's, can you fit within that culture? That's the real question that you should always be asked and found out.
Spurs are an interesting one. Bang average players, Parker, well, not bang average, a little bit better than average. Parker, Ginobili, Kawhi's an all-star.
Tim Duncan.
Then Tim Duncan, right?
Hall of Famer, that's one.
Yeah, you've got those, like, maybe two all-stars out of the 3 there.
Yeah.
But yet the others around it, because that environment, are all playing up a notch by 10 to 20%. Just by being in the environment. It's like FIFA on Ultimate Teams. When you get the chemistry right, your FIFA players play better.
That's what it is.
Yeah, there needs to be the culture fit though first, doesn't it? Before we were talking about, so I was listening to a thing around culture, and it was by, we want to, one of our mentors, Dan Hill, and he's done a podcast here, and he was talking about the different aspects of culture, and he was saying, like, high performance, low culture is a terrorist. So, like, they're really high performers, but they're completely low culture fit. And when they enter an organization or a sports team, they become like a terrorist in the organization, and they just they need to get rid of.
Kyrie Irving. Okay, give an example. After you say that, after you explain the thing, I'll talk to you about Kyrie Irving.
Right, yeah. And then you got low culture, low performance, and they're rats. and then you got, so they're just terrible. They need to get out of the organization straight away. And then you got high culture but low performance, and they're puppies. So these people are just like, they're shitting all over the place. Everyone loves them, but they just can't keep up. So this is that whole sink or swim. And most cases are not. Most cases they'll sink, But in some cases, they will rise up and swim if they've got that kind of unlocked potential. And then you've got high culture, high performance, and that's like the superstar, the ideal person having a team.
Yeah, that's when you win.
That's when you win. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you've got a team of superstars, then you're going to win. If you've got a team and you got one terrorist, they'll bring everything down.
Oh, hold on. Let's talk about that. Actually, if you have a team full of superstars, do you always win? Because in sports, it's never that. That's never the case.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. In sports, probably not, but in most other things, I think if you've got a solid team of A-rated people, you're going to do pretty well.
In business, for sure, I agree.
Yeah, if we were all doing the same thing, then the answer is yeah. But let's say if I was an all-star, but I was doing admin. I would like for a day-to-day job. Like I'm an all-star in my check-ins, whatever transformation.
Yeah, but that's about being in the wrong position.
Yeah, but can you have all-stars in all? Yes, you can have all-stars in different positions. All-stars not in the same.
Yeah, you need
position.
all-stars.
You can't have 10 strikers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Filling a team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what a team is, right? You have to have the admin person, for example, it needs to be in the admin position. If they're an admin person doing at the front playing striker, that's going to be a disaster, right? So, you need to make sure that you're in the right position. And if you were in the wrong one, then you probably become a puppy. you're high performance but low culture. So
yeah, that's about the manager fitting the all-stars to the right
orchestrator,
positions.
Right? The orchestrator, the Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
You got to decide who's going to play in what position.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Kyrie Irving is the prime example of high talent, low culture. He's been to like 4 different NBA teams. I think 4 or 3. Three, and every single one of them hate him by the end of the time. Don't want Kyrie Irving. They don't want to play with him. He's fantastic. Gets injured all the time, but whatever. But like he's fantastic talent. But he just brings down every team from either moaning, going on Twitter, just bad culture, just believe the big I am.
He's also aloof in that sense as well. Like he believes the earth is flat. He's one of those guys, like, in his spare time, will get trapped in some sort of theory and then he'll bring it to the organization. People are like, you're crazy, whatever. But he's very talented. And that's why he wanted to do his own thing. And he left LeBron, basically.
Yeah.
And he actually apologized to LeBron. And he said, I was wrong because I thought I was a leader, but I wasn't. So that's interesting as well. Like, because one, LeBron was MVP, he won. And he's like, I took the last shot, I should be MVP. That's why he demanded a trade. And then he's like, a year later, he's like, actually, you know what? I was wrong in that situation. Man, it's great because he admitted to it. But not a lot of people admit to that situation.
So like, that is so big. Like, if you just take that across to like business and other areas, how many times you hear that, but you'll never hear anyone admitting that. But that whole idea of, like there's not as much glamour in being a team anymore. I don't understand why. Like when you watch something like The Last Dance, that should show you the power of what a team can do.
Yeah, I love being a Rodman.
And that's the other thing. Like some people will be better some people would be feel more fulfilled and be a superstar as a Rodman, but they'd be a puppy as a Jordan.
And they're trying to be Jordan.
And people are trying to be Jordan, but they really should be a Rodman, and they'll do better, they'll feel better, they'll perform better, they'll bring more value into the world as a Rodman, but they want to be a Jordan.
Yeah. You see this all the time. Basketball is the best example ever.
Jordan's glamorized, but he's not he can't do it without Rodman.
Yeah.
Jordan needs Rodman. He didn't win before, right? Yeah, exactly. He didn't win before actually a team. That's the whole point of this documentary. I think a lot of people now, because it's so Jordan eccentric, like everyone's like Jordan, but they forget the whole like team aspect of it. No one's really focusing on the whole team. And they're like, hold on, he actually had a great manager, I say GM, great coach at the same time, right? If you think about Phil Jackson's won 11 rings, right? That's hard to win. No one's won 11 rings in basketball since him. And then he obviously had a team around him. And that's why if you look at other teams, no one had a team. Like they had great players, 1 or 2 players, but it was never a whole team. And that's why Jordan won 6 in the end. So I think that's why team And building a team is very, very important. I think it's also very underrated in that aspect. And you're right, like no one really talks about why building up a team is important or why winning as a team is also important. I think everyone glamorizes that.
Yeah, it is glamorized. And, you hear that, again, another like cliche say, people are like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's like another saying that it just makes a lot of sense. Think about anyone who's done anything great, it's always with a team. And it doesn't happen. The one-man band is glamorized, but the one-man band doesn't really get anywhere. But the Jordan is glamorized, but the Rodman and the Pippen is what drove Jordan to be Jordan. Yeah. Allowed him to do that and allowed him to bring everyone else with him. So, yeah, it's a really good analogy.
Even in solo sports as well, right? If you think about solo sports, I don't think it's solo, but it's not solo. It's still Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time because he had a crew around him. Literally, he had a crew around him. His dad, his uncle, all of his trainers around him. His team was crazy. And
I think an even better example would be Formula One, no? Like, if you think about that, that's like a real example of, like, you're in the pit and like all that guy's doing is driving the car, but there's so much that has to go on behind the scenes for that car to be ready and for that car to keep going. He's
within a certain time period as well, right? It's not like, just relax and then go. You have to be done within like a minute and then go again. Like that's pressure, but that's also delivering under pressure as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So let's. So you said you had a thing about a terrorist example.
Go on.
That's what, that was Kyrie. Yeah.
You want to explain who it is or why?
No, we just did.
Oh,
yeah. He just did. There's loads of them that are quite a same example. Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving. They're all people trying to be all stars when they're actually role players.
Well, Chris Paul's a great example. We can talk about him because everyone says he's very much like Jordan in his intensity, but he's got 0 championships, 0 rings. But then he's also hated at the same time because he's not a winner. So imagine if Jordan wasn't a winner, what his life would be like after that. So it's also knowing that you actually have to win. You can't be like high performance or high intensity, but then if you don't win, what's the point of that, right?
Yeah, then you're just burning the candle for no reason.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That's huge.
That's really interesting, actually, isn't it? Because that you go down the whole rabbit hole, like why are you doing it and
why are you burning candle?
I think anyone who's got high performance mentality has probably got some sort of deep rooted thing that they're trying to solve as well. I mean, that's a whole different rabbit hole, right?
Your biggest insecurity is your biggest driver.
Yeah, it's always the case, right?
Yeah.
The more like on the spectrum you are, the more you didn't like. Look at, I'd say the biggest example in the world right now is Elon Musk. Like, look at Elon Musk. That guy is like, he's on a different planet than most of us are thinking. But that guy's got his childhood and the stuff that he's been through, and his wiring is one of the reasons why he just drives so hard, right? Like if you break him down as a person, so there's definitely something there. Like I was rewatching Steve Jobs documentary recently, the film, and like it's a similar sort of thing. And Bill Gates, I don't know if you've seen his one, but his mum's explaining how he was always in his room, and he was like he had something about him that he kind of buried himself in the computers. So that is the whole another rabbit hole, probably a whole different conversation, that one.
Yeah. So with that, which we'll move on, is like energy can never be destroyed or it can only be transferred. So like if you are you have a deep insecurity, that energy there has to be transferred into other things. Some other people will transfer that into negative things and put it into coping mechanisms, and then other people will transfer that energy into positives. And that's where we see all of these examples come from. And they always turn into a position of you going balls deep into something.
Yeah. If you think about what the example of it going, like having these insecurities or having these things and taking high performance to another level, but being channeled down the wrong way, then you can think of things like narcos or mafia or any like gangs. If you think about them as organizations and as businesses, all they're doing really is their product is illegal, right? Their product's illegal and there's violence involved. But if you take away the product and the violence, it's the same exact thing. They've got some sort of insecurity that's driving them is usually some level of poverty or where they grew up in, or the environment they grew up in, and that's driving them to drive so hard into high performance, but high performance crime. And their version of winning is different, but it's all the same. Like, you can apply these principles to everything you look at. I always think of that. We talked about earlier about your environment being the biggest dictator. And just think about if some of these people who grow up in the gang environments and they get brought up into gangs and they run big gangs and they run big organizations like that. Imagine if they were doing something that was legal, what they would be doing. Like, they would have the potential to do stuff that we could only dream of because they've got that next level thinking. Like, we've seen like Narcos. Imagine if like Pablo Escobar ran a legal business. Like, what would he? I think there's an interview about this. Like, what would he be like in a normal environment? Right? I think you said in the interview. That's a really interesting question. Like that, I think that whole thing just shows like whether you're growth or you're fixed. It's just how you apply it, and the environment that you grow up in will dictate a lot of what you apply it into, and how much you can.
Yeah, all he wanted to do was, take care of his family, right?
Yeah,
that's what it was. It was just literally from insecurity, and he wanted to be like, listen, I need to take care of my family. But he went into like just the illegal side of things. The DA agent in the interview, with Patrick Bet-David one, he actually said he would run a Fortune 500 company because that's how good he was. Yeah. Which is big, right? When you think about how many Fortune 500 companies are there, number one, and at the same time, how many would say, okay, he can run that? Not many, right? If you think about it in the world. And he was like, listen, I don't want to give him credit, but he could possibly do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, it does come down to that environment, nature versus nurture debate as well over here, right?
Yeah. Mm. I always wonder, like, if you think about, might be a bit taboo, but if you think about drug dealers, right? Like young drug dealers who are like 14 to 18-year-olds. A lot of them are like business masterminds, or but they're just selling. What they're selling is just the wrong product. Like, just give them a phone to sell, or give them a product, or like some sort of software to sell. And what would they do then? Like, all the things they do, whether it's the leader of the gang, or the second in command, or one of the captains, or whatever it may be. It's remarkable when you actually break it down. Like, what would happen if you give these people the right things and the right opportunities?
You've seen that with sneakers.
Yeah,
sneakers. You've seen these guys run sneakers now, where they'll. So this guy, I think came out was going to speak about this. This guy used to go and get shoes from a store, line up and go and basically tent overnight, go and get a new pair of Jordans, sell them for double. Then he'd go back and get three of his mates. He'd pay three of his mates to stand in the line with him. Then they go and get 4 pairs, and then the next pair they'd double sell it. And then next minute he's paying 250 people to stand in the line to then give him the Jordans to then go and sell to like Rick Ross. And he's young. He's like 16 years old. And he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
But that comes from the deep poverty issue of where like he just needed to have some money to buy some Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just
look at the drug side one. If you look at the drug one, the greatest example I can think of is probably Jay-Z.
Yeah. 100%.
Right.
Like that guy. Yeah. Go on.
From drug dealer to what, billionaire right now, which is crazy when you think about it. No formal education. He's running the streets, and then he started making music, created his own label because no one wanted him. And now he's got his own label. He's got his own sports agency, which is big, by the way. At the same time, like, how many musicians have got their own agency? So it's actually crazy when you think about it. That's probably the greatest example of a drug dealer who made it into the mainstream and then now is a billionaire, which is, that's the craziest.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's some absolute bangers as well.
Yeah.
Bangers.
Don't tell Kmak about that.
I was watching a Chris Rock interview yesterday, and he was talking about, they asked him for his top 5, and they were like, we shouldn't even include Jay in this. And I was like, I need to screen record this and send this to AV. He was like, we don't include Jay in this because Jay's like out here. And the guy goes, what about Big Impact? He's like, yeah, they're there, but Jay's like, they're there. And I was like, I need to this is Chris Rock talking.
We talked about it on the last podcast, right? The one thing I give to Jay is that he's done it so many times, over and over again, and also in different genres as well. So he's not just done like the hip hop, the 90s hip hop style. He's continued to evolve with the times, and he's done it mainstream, he's done it commercial, he's done it on the street, he's done all types of music, and still like sold out all of them.
Yeah, and it's the level of consistency as well, right? If you think about it, that's what high performance really is, isn't it? It's like, how consistent can you be over a period of time?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think you can be a high performer but inconsistent. I think that's about managing energies and managing all the peril, all the downsides that come with high performance. Whether it could be drink, drugs, excess lifestyle, poor lifestyle, burnout, mental health, all the different things because most people who are driving forward this can end up on that spectrum. So you've got to like balance it. And I think if you can balance it and ride it, you can keep going. Like, I think for me, the biggest example in sport for me personally, because I can relate to, is Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that guy, and even Lionel Messi, but I think Ronaldo, I don't want to get into that debate, but Ronaldo as a high performing athlete, I think there's no one better. You just think about where he started from. He's a weak, skinny Man United football player who kept getting kicked over to that dedication to become the best, and then continue to evolve and continue to become the best in multiple different places. And I just think that is like the epitome of high performance in sport, at least in Europe anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's also the consistency, right? If you did it for one season, you'd be like, okay, he did it for one great season. That was it. It's like JJ Okocha. But now he's done it for over 20 years now, where like he's the GOAT, right? Yeah. So the GOAT title only comes after, in my opinion, a longevity. Longevity for me counts for a lot.
I mean, look at Roger Federer. That's another example. Like, that guy's been doing it for like over 20 years, and he still like somehow has the drive to go and play tennis. Like, if you were Roger Federer, you'd probably most people would have hung their boots up 10 years ago, but he's still going out there, still wins. To be honest, tennis are in a fortunate position right now. They got like 3 people who've been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah,
and it's very rare. Like, you got 3 people at the top of their game, and they just pretty much win everything. It's very rare for that. I don't remember any other sport having that for a long that sort of period of time. I
mean, the only other example is probably golf. When Tiger, just before Tiger, when it was like Nicholson.
I mean, look at Tiger Woods. That's a perfect example of like high performance, but falling off the spectrum too many times.
Falling on top of too many people.
That's also like deep-rooted issues.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that whole deep-rooted issue conversation. That's Tiger Woods there as a nutshell.
Yeah,
because he's been playing golf since he was 3 years old, right? So it's like that burnout probably caught up with him in different areas.
Other things. The poor lifestyle choice, yeah.
He has the same lifestyle choices as Jordan, if you think about it. Like we talk about Jordan being elite, but also Jordan, what was the first episode? What did he say? I never used to drink.
Gambling problem, yeah.
Yeah, I never used to drink and smoke in my first years. I was just like, yeah, chilled out. End of documentary, cigar after every game, drinks a cognac after every episode, still drinking, and his eyes are bloodshot yellow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's basically the effects of it after a while.
I think there is that level of coping mechanism, isn't it? Like, what is your coping mechanism to keep yourself in the game? And that's another interesting conversation. Like, what do people do to stay in the game for a long period of time? Because you have to. Like, I think everyone who's on that drive, there is always a contrast or a complete opposite that is counterproductive to what they're doing, but is almost needed to keep them going.
It's the duality, isn't it? It's the what a drug giveth, a drug taketh. So you I've used that one before. Ibiza. But when you have such far positive, there's that duality of spectrum that brings you back to that neutral position. And the higher he goes in his height of his fantastic elusive career, and not to mention all of the money that came with branding and sponsorship, etc., like that, is that there had to be the other side of it to pull him back down. Otherwise, it just has to happen.
Yeah.
What do you think for us lay individuals who can't jump or over 6 foot or don't play basketball? What do you think the key is for our high performance to recovery ratio?
Well, I think like if you think about what we do, we just do it in a different way. We just push the boat out on a different spectrum. It's like, we're bashing on a keyboard most of the time, but like, so we're not physically exhausting ourselves. That's what I'm trying to get. We're not physically exhausting ourselves, but mentally we do need that wind back. And it's finding that what is your mental wind back. And this is something I struggle with. I'm very open with it as well. I struggle with like, how do you find the pullback in the drive, and what is the essential, like what is the I don't know if escape's the right word, but what's the way that you pull it back? I don't know if I found it yet. So yeah, I'm always open for ideas. Always open for, sorry?
Do you think you will?
I don't know, because I'm not really looking to minimize it. That's the thing. Like I went through a period last year when I was like, this isn't like, I don't think this is a good way to live. But then I realized this is the way I am. And I was like, well, I spoke about this on the last podcast of the year about 20 things I learned. And I said, instead of trying to like find a new bucket, I just need to fill the holes in the bucket I have. And I think that's the key, is like, what do I need to keep doing to keep myself running in this gear? And for me, most of it is related to training and nutrition and all of that. But at the same time, it's also around like, what is the way to clear the fuzz after a heavy week or after a heavy period of being up, balls to the walls.
Rewatching The Wire.
Rewatching The Wire, yeah, that's probably why. Yeah. Problem with those kind of shows, it gets your mind churning.
Yeah, because you'll send me like a quote from there or something like that and be like, check out this. Do you remember this scene?
Yeah. All in the game, yo.
The game is the game. That's what that's the thing, isn't it? The game is the game.
Yeah. It's just there's benefits and drawbacks to the whole thing, isn't there? Like all the benefits that come with the game, there are also like plenty of drawbacks. And it's just how can you manage the drawbacks, keep pushing forward and keep winning.
Yeah. I'm probably going to go down the rabbit hole. It isn't the things that keep you aligned with that, keep pushing effectively your rules on a day-to-day basis and how you live. Because if you don't have the rules, like your rules are effectively like a 10-pin bowl alley that keep you locked in. And then when you're rolling down there, it stops you from falling down the gutter. That's a quite good one. And that allows you to keep hitting the pins every single day. And without those rules, you'll be slipping down the gutter in no time and not hitting the pins. For people that are in this position where they're probably, let's pretty get back to like investment, or like people that are starting to hit that high performance mentality from consolidation investment, what do you think the important rules are for people? I know everyone's different, but what have you found?
Okay, man.
I think it's finding your own rules first. Because like you said, everyone's different, right? But then, let's say someone puts out their own rules on the Facebook group, like, oh my God, this works for me. Isn't going to work for most people, right? Because it's so individual to them. So one thing you want to do is establish your own rules to begin with. It's like, okay, what do I need to follow to ensure that I perform to the best of my ability, whether it's like being the best parent to my kids, being the best person at my job. Because if you're the best person in your job, you end up, being that security blanket for your family, essentially. So finding out what your rules are and what you want to make your rules as well. I think that's probably the number one thing, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, we've been talking a lot about refining rules and using them to drive performance. And I'm seeing more and more, like this week, I meant to check in with you and I haven't checked in with you. And I understand.
Oh, no, yeah.
But the interesting is, like I felt like I did check in with you like very briefly on Wednesday. I don't know why I'm using that as a check-in. but what I was thinking about is I was this week I was thinking I'm getting like 4 p.m. and I'm just not being able to get that final push to 6 like I used to. And then I was looking through my training logs and I realized that in the last 5 weeks, I had a lot on in the last 5 weeks. In the last 5 weeks, I haven't completed a full training week. I didn't even realize that until I sat back and looked at it. And each week I was missing 1 or 2 sessions here or there, which is very unlike me. But it was a big lapse in my rules because earlier in this week, we were doing this exercise. We were like identifying like key vulnerabilities and key difficulties that I have. And you were going in on as well. And one of the key red line drivers for me is my training quality. I know if my training quality is going down, my motivation and training is going down, then something isn't right. Like something's off. And that's when it clicked, and I was like, I need to make sure this week I hit all sessions, and I've done it. I've hit all sessions because but the funny thing is, I didn't realize it until I looked on those rules and I realized what my key drivers are, and just got to ensure that those are always being met.
Yeah, it's so important. And for people that are coming from, let's give an example of someone that's coming from losing lots of weight, those habits that they formed beforehand, it's very much easy to slip back into those old patterns. And for you, that old pattern was not being able to do your 4 till 6, which didn't have a massive carryover in your body weight at all or anything like that. But for someone else, that might mean,
okay, right?
4 kilo gain. Or might mean the KFC bucket starts coming back in on a Friday night, or now that McDonald's is back open or whatever. Is that those rules and the identification of that importance of that rule will allow you to keep those gutters open or up on the.
One thing I also realized this week is, so I've been paying a bit more attention to my training this week, and I realized that one thing I'm missing from the gym more than anything is the ability to just take one set and go balls out. I don't even know why I see like I don't have to do it here, because I obviously can do it here. But in lockdown, for some reason, I've been doing like more reps, but more sets as well, like more volume. And I just haven't been getting that same sort of drive. So what I did today, and what I've done this week in a lot of my exercises, just done like one set. And I've cranked up the music really loud. Really like, and I did my usual like old rituals I used to do in the gym. And I thought, you know what, I've got this banded RDL. I don't know how much weight this is, because I just put all the weights I can fit on the thing. And then I put 3 bands over my neck. So I don't know what the tension is at the top, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take this set to absolute failure and just go to like as many as I get. I don't really care how many. I ended up getting like 14 or 15 reps. And I did it. And I just felt so good. I felt like that's what I'd be missing. So I'd fallen into the volume rabbit hole when really I know I thrive off that intensity. And that was just another insight into rules that I should probably play around with. Is
also
like,
the precursors as well, right? Like your precursor was their music, you know, understanding rituals once again. That's also quite huge for a lot of people, especially
what I've done in the last few weeks. I started listening to different music. Like when I go to the gym, there's always like a few playlists I play, and there's always like either heavy hardcore hip hop or heavy rock music. What I started doing recently was just like picking an artist and just playing, you know, on the Apple iTunes, you got Essentials.
Soft.
Just playing like whatever.
Man's listening to Top 40, brother.
Oh, Top 40.
Like Ellie Goulding.
Yeah, like whatever Essentials come up, and I'm just playing it, and I realized I went for like 3-4 weeks with it, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, that's probably half the reason I'm listening to this shit, but I'm not even getting into it.
He's clicking along on it.
It's hard enough to train at home as it is to get motivated, and I'm listening to Apple Music Essentials, wondering why I'm not got a drive to train. So today I had to blast on. I think I played. Today I put a 2-pack on. I just put the music up like louder than normal, and also because I'm at home, I've been playing the music quietly. So I've just been like, you got quiet music.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of reset myself there. But I realized there's a few things there that just tie up in my rules that allow me to perform my best. So yeah.
Stops you going down the gutter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was it. I came out of it and I was like, oh man, I've missed that feeling. Because when you do volume, you can kind of coast the whole session, right? You can coast it. You can, you don't really have to focus, and you can just kind of get on with it. Whereas today I was like, I've got this one set. And when it gets tough, like you can't be focusing anywhere else. And it's that whole meditative effect that you get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Kmak, what about your rules?
Yeah, go on.
So my rules, obviously we speak about them quite often as well, with our check-ins. But from a training perspective, it's always having that music. I need to have some music. I can't train like with nothing on or anything like that. I need something. So usually it's Meek Mill. Like it's never changed. If you look at my rules as well, it's never changed from
same championship album.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite albums where it gets me hyped. It also reminds me of a time when, because we all get into games as well, right? With that music on, that was like our precursor. When we entered the city, like imagine you enter Philadelphia, that's where Meek's from, and you play his Dreams and Nightmares song. You're getting hyped anyway, so it puts me in that kind of zone, and I'm like, this is perfect, and I'm ready to kind of roll. So for me, it's always like, what's my precursor towards like training, pre-workout, Komodo pump, and it's the music. It's getting championship album ready. The intro, as soon as the intro starts, you're like, all right, this is it. It's time to get ready and start the session basically.
Yeah. Go on.
No,
go on.
I was going to say they've got a few listener questions that come in. I just thought we'd go through a few of them. And both of them, so we mentioned we're going to talk about that in the investment phase. And then I think two people pretty much asked around aggressive muscle building investment phases, about embracing the fluff and how fluffy should you be willing to get? How does that muscle building strategy change with age, and maximizing recovery from muscle growth? Like how much weight should you put on per year? So there's a lot of things around that. So maybe we could touch a little bit about embracing the fluff, but more so than that, like how it relates to high performance, just to keep with the theme of this podcast is, a lot of people think like that goes against it, but talk about how you can embrace the fluff, have an aggressive muscle building phase, but still keep the high performance mindset. An interesting question, actually.
And you're referring to the embracing the fluff actually of body fat, or are you talking embracing the fluff of high performance in terms of like a difficult challenge to what you're used to?
Let's start with let's tackle both.
Because isn't effectively just embracing the fluff something new, getting used to an adjustment period, and then finding your new norm? Because definitely for me, let's relate it back to body fat. Like I said to you, I'm feeling fat at 69. But like this week, 69, same body weight, still I feel great. But I had a period of 4 weeks where I felt like I was embracing the fluff because I thought I was fat. The embracing the fluff is the period of like discomfort and challenge to something that you're used to. It's not about how big you should get or if 10 kilos is too much. Yeah, of course, if you've got massive blood handles and you're massive, then it's not going to be something that a great optimal muscle building phase. Yeah, and you're just going to feel lethargic and stuff.
Yeah.
But the ability to embrace the fluff at different periods, like 2 kilos, 3 kilos above where you had your photo shoot or consolidated, you're going to start feeling those t-shirts a little bit more, and they're going to catch in your love handle. You're going to be, oh damn, I forgot. No, that's not right. I dieted all that off, and you're like, oh well, here comes the new adjustment period, and then 2 more kilos comes, and you're like, you're wearing top like this, where this is like, tight as anything, and you're like, okay, maybe I need to buy a medium top. And then it'll be fine for a while, and then it'll kind of subside, and the feelings will kind of neutralize and normalize. And then two more kilos later, I'm sure I'm going to have the same problem. But it's that challenge and just riding that dip, because it is a dip, and it's not about embracing high fat levels. It's about actually keeping to the rules, sticking to your guns of what the goal is at the long term, and then maximizing that on a day-to-day basis. Of course, there's going to be some discomfort, but you might as well force discomfort on yourself as opposed to being imposed on you by something else.
Well, I think everyone should go through. I had a chat with someone the other day, and they were asking like, I want to get a bit bigger. I want to I want to be a bit leaner. The usual sort of things. So they want everything. And I was like, well, the problem is you're chasing 2 rabbits. And for most people, if you've just hit your checkpoint in anything, you need to go through a period of embracing the fluff at least once. Because if you want to make major improvements in something, you have to embrace all the fluff that comes with improvement and the excess that comes with improvement in order to see the rewards in the other side. And I think, and the question was around age as well. And, we're talking about embracing the fluff in body transformation, but you can apply this to everything, right? But if you just talk about age, I think the level which you embrace the fluff when you're in your 45, 50, 40s and, 40, 45, 50 is going to be less than when you're for 20, 25, 30, 35. Absolutely, because I think health also comes into it, and you probably want to minimize any risk of poorer body composition on health. So I don't think there's a need to go crazy with embracing the fluff, but at the same time, I think you can still push it out there without it getting silly. Like Nathan was saying, like he was saying, you don't need to get fat in the process, but you can definitely lose a bit of sharpness in order to take it to the next level. Because once you do it once, I think the next time, then you can take a much more leaner, slower approach.
Yeah, 100%. If like embracing the fluff to somebody maybe gaining 2 kilos and then getting over that because they've never had it. I assume for you as well, the more you embrace the fluff was like the later on in a building phase. Like your first one wasn't when you just got super, super big. It's like you had a period of building up of what you thought was embracing the fluff.
Yeah.
And then you got over that feedback loop.
I mean, every time you do it, I've definitely realized that, in every investment phase I've done, I've always ended up being embracing the fluff. I can't do the long-term lifestyle solution. I just find it boring. Honestly, I just think like if you want to make real results, doing the long-term slow lifestyle solution is good for people who don't want to make improvements. If you just want to maintain, then definitely go for lifestyle solution, because you'll be better at maintaining. You'll learn how to better maintain, which is goal in itself. It isn't the same as just maintaining. Because if you just maintain and think, I'm just going to maintain, you'll slowly stagnate and slowly revert. But what I'm talking about is like lifestyle solution, in that you learn how to have your cake and eat it while staying lean. But if you want to make improvements, then I just think until you're really happy and satisfied with what you've got physique-wise or whatever it may be, you have to embrace the fluff with what comes with it.
Do you think the moment that you can really embrace the fluff is when you actually realize that the visual being isn't as important as the rest of the reason why you train?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think when I first started training, in the early days, I was definitely that guy who was, in my vest in the gym and any excuse to take my top off, and it was very much visually driven. But in the last probably 6, 7, 8 years, it's just been, hoodies and joggers, and I don't really. It's not really about the physical for me. It's the physical is the extra, but it's all the other things like it gives me. Like I was just talking to you about the training and not doing my intensity versus volume, and listening to the wrong music and all that sort of stuff. It's because of what that gives me, the meditative effects of it all. So I think it does depend on where you are in that journey. If you're very much new to it and you've just got into a shape that you've never really considered before, you are going to you're going to be more reluctant of embracing the fluff. Whereas if you've now made it a new norm, you'll allow yourself to dive into that deeper, aggressive muscle building phase or investment phase and get all the benefits that it can bring. Yeah, so I definitely think it's a learned trait. And each one of my investment phases, I'd say I'm probably not going to repeat the one I did in 2018. Kmak loves that one, right? When I hit 90, 91 kilos, I probably won't go that big again, mainly because
double chin, right?
My face just gets too bloated, and I can't. Everything just looks weird. It just looks bad. I'd say where I'm at now is probably the upper limit, 84, 84-ish, 83, 84, maybe 85, but probably not more than that, because after that, there's the diminishing returns in performance as well. For me, performance caps out around 86, 87. And after that, it's just pure extra body weight with no performance gains. So my best all-time lifts in the gym have always been around 86, 87, maybe 87 and a half. When I've trained at 90, I've never been any stronger, which is interesting. So yeah, I definitely think it's a learned trait to learn to embrace that fluff and learn how to throw yourself all in on the other side. That's not dieting, but a muscle building.
Yeah, you really can't embrace all the benefits and all the journey without letting go of that. You don't have to let go of the whole visual things. Sure, it matters to some degree, but at some point during your journey and during my journey, definitely me now, I realized that 63, 65, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Would I take my top off at the beach now? Yeah, because I'm at a beach, rather than whether I was worried about what I look like.
Yeah, what made it for me is when I started going on holidays and I didn't care about dieting beforehand. I think when you make that mindset, that's when things change for you. When you're still stuck in I've got to diet for the beach, I get that. I get the point of doing it. But when you can just rock up and take the top off at the beach, and you're not lean, but you're not out of shape. You're probably just looking normal, to be honest, and you're just looking a bit bulkier. Then I think that's when you're really truly comfortable, and that's a hard place to get to, but it will come. The more you understand why you're doing this and what it really gives you, more than just aesthetics. That's when the physical is the vehicle, right? Ooh.
Yeah.
Perfect finish there, Kmak. Dropped it.
Mic drop.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about what it takes to be a killer coach, but I think if you want to be a killer coach, you just need to listen to what we've just been talking about the last hour and a half.
Yeah.
High performance, it's killer mentality, and it's being able to take feedback, being able to take criticism, and taking no prisoners when you're with your,
don't be a rat.
Don't be a rat. Don't be a puppy. Don't be a terrorist. Just be a high-performing athlete that wants to get results. Work with a team, and you'll be a killer. And we're talking about killer by that because we've been talking about all sorts of people on this podcast.
Yeah, that's everyone.
What we mean is like a results producing coach is what we're talking about.
In any field.
In any field. Yeah, in any field. I think it all applies. All the things we talk about today. I think the mindset, like this high performance mindset, high performance is a mindset. It's not a status or an economy or an income bracket or anything like that. It's a way of being, and it's a way of thinking. It's a way of mindset. And if you can embrace that and bring other people together who also share that mentality, you can do some really cool things.
So when you start winning.
Getting those rings, son.
All right, guys, great chat. Any parting words?
No, it's been great to have you on our podcast. And you should definitely come back on soon.
Yeah, we'll get you on next time as well.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Who should we get next?
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.